Welcome back, everybody. I am Bobby.
I'm Justus.
And this is Between Sundays, and today is episode 5. Looking forward to this topic today of friendships and influence. Friendships and influence. Justus, what do you think about this topic today, man?
It is very needed.
Very needed.
Somebody a long time ago, I don't even remember who it was now, somebody told me an important life lesson is to remember that you are influencing somebody.
Yeah.
A more important life lesson is to realize somebody is influencing you.
Yeah.
And between Sundays picking up this topic, I think it's a great one for us to talk about today.
Me too. Well, it's one of those things too. You don't realize the influence if you're not careful in either way. As far as you don't realize how much you're being influenced if you're not careful, or you don't realize how you're influencing other people. And especially in as a Christian, kind of to add a phrase to a phrase. I remember my pastor used to say all the time, you're either pointing people to God or you're pointing people away from God. And so our influence is such a big thing I think need to be reminded of every once in a while and make sure that we're intentional with how we're influencing things, not just hope that it works out or that we're being the right influence, but really ask ourselves, what is our influence being, in this life? And it was kind of something that we wrote down for today, talking about our friends, and it's this idea here, our friends determine our direction. And really a lot of times if you show me your friends, the people that are around you, that circle that you have in life, I can get a pretty good idea of a direction that you're going, And to kind of give a verse for today as we, get into this topic, Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 just says this, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. And, so as we get into it today, it's really that looking at our influences around us, how they shape our character, all of these things, because really, again, at the end of the day, you're either going to influence people to be more like you, or you're going to become like the people you're around. I remember in college, I went to, Bible college, was, called to preach and all these things. But I didn't grow up around preachers a lot. I've got friends that, they grew up around preachers. They've been around it a lot, maybe because a dad was a pastor, grandpa was a pastor, things like that. I didn't. I went to a good church, got a good family, good godly mom and dad, but I wasn't around preachers a lot other than Sundays and Wednesdays. And I'll never forget, as I was learning to preach, I thought, okay, if I sounded like this person, that's what a good preacher sounds like. And, of course, at the time, we were around Dr. Larry Brown a lot, just great preacher, And so my idea was like, okay, if I just yell the whole time, then that'll be, a good preacher. And I know that sounds stupid and, may not could relate to that, but it was just this idea of like, okay, that's what I'm around. That's what I need to sound like.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much some of that stuff had rubbed off on us.
Oh, yeah.
Especially guys that I went to school with. And I remember preaching one time and I went to this place and I think from the time I said like, good morning, I think I was even yelling in the invitation. If I'm being honest.
Get down there right now.
I just calling everybody out, dude. It was just like, I wish I had a recording of it because, like, how do you yell at somebody and you're like, I love you, but you're yelling at them? I don't know. It was weird, but, like, it was a flop. It was a royal train wreck of a sermon. And I learned a lot that day of your influence. But it is true. I know, again, it's something that I can laugh at now. But, again, our friendships, the people we're around, they influence us a lot. Honestly.
Yeah, a lot of times the influence that they have, kind of go back to what you said, isn't necessarily noticed or picked up on all the time. There's things that, excuse me, there's things that I do that my dad did, and I don't know why I do them.
Yeah.
But little things that you might say or little ways you might act. I was around my dad a lot, and, I consider my dad now a friend, but that's still something that he had influence.
Yeah.
And we kind of look at that as parents, but on the other side of friendships, a lot of times people who are negative, complain a lot.
Yeah.
You start picking up on those bad habits as well. And sometimes it can be some stuff that we don't necessarily recognize right away. But yeah, talking about being, you shaping your friendship, shaping you to be what they are, a lot of times is subtle. Oftentimes it's not even noticed.
Yeah.
But kind of with the pretext to that of it's not noticed by you, but it's noticed by other people.
Yeah.
And so it's important. It's important who you hang around.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things I know I try to really challenge our students here a lot in our student ministry is evaluating. There's nothing wrong with evaluating things.
Yeah.
And looking at things around you, because we get in routines. I mean, let's face it, we like to coast at times or as I say, kind of put it in cruise control like a car,
Mm-hmm.
But life's not that. And if we got to evaluate other places, then we got to evaluate our friendships at times and the influences that we have around us. And one of the things I strive to kind of keep in their mind a lot is this idea, do your friends bring you closer to God? Do your influences, do they point you towards God or pull you closer to Him? Or do they pull you back?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, that's one of the biggest questions that you can ask about any influence or any relationship that you have, in life. Is this bringing me closer to Him, or is it bringing me further away? Because we all have this idea like, oh, I'll change everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be the guy that goes out there, and because I live for God and because I, go to church, then everybody that gets around me is just going to automatically want to get. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
And, I can look back in times in my life, and if I wasn't careful, more times than not, that influence was pulling me away from God if I wasn't careful, more than I was pulling it to God.
Yeah.
And I know that's tough, because at the end of the day, we've got to be a witness for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you got to make sure you're in the right place too. And that you don't just try to, again, think you can take on and change the world, by yourself. I remember Brother Brent one time talking to us in college, and he was talking about, as you walk life, every once in a while stop and take a look at the friends that are around you, the people that are around you. And if they're going in the same direction for you, that's great, And then he said, you keep walking for the Lord. And then, you stop and you see who's around you again, and you keep walking. Not one time did he say, and I know this sounds counterproductive as being a Christian, but he said, not one time did he say, go back and go get somebody.
Yeah.
He said, just walk for the Lord, see who's around you, and evaluate those relationships, and y'all all keep pushing forward for what's right and for that godly walk in your life.
Yeah, your friends do shape your character.
They do.
We see time and time again of kids a lot of times in youth group. It starts with just a friend, and that kind of starts the ball rolling. Of maybe we don't see them as often, or maybe we hear that they're getting into a little bit of trouble. Some cases we have those teenagers start showing up to regular things and get back involved, and it's kind of like, well, where have you been?
Yeah.
And then you can almost tie it back to, they're not going to say this, but you can tie it back to, I just started coming around, more, just wanted to come. And if they were being honest, it was because they lost that friend.
Yeah.
And, maybe that friend wanted them for what they had. Maybe that friend thought that they could benefit from getting something from that person for a little bit of time. And, once the toys run out, once the money runs out, once the video games stop, then you're not as cool anymore. And kind of a side note to that is that's not a real friend. Somebody that's just after you for what they can get from you is not a friend. But your friends really do shape your character. So what are some things that you think we can put in place to kind of make a mental check? And I kind of ask you, what are some things you think that we could say, how do I evaluate some of my friends? What are some key things that I need to look at within my friend circle? Maybe I am getting in trouble more at school. Maybe I do have a bad attitude towards my parents. Maybe I do have a problem with lying, or and this is stuff we see on the daily almost.
Yeah.
If I start seeing those things pop up in my life, and I'm looking at my friend group first, what would be some things that you would see to kind of look out for?
Well, I mean, one of the things I would say is, what behavior or what patterns do those so-called friends reinforce? And what I get is, what do you find the common ground in? And so if it's, obviously if I can find common ground, or somebody's reinforcing, godly behavior in my life or good behavior, you talk about parents, if the pattern they reinforce is you being good to your mom and dad, or obedient to your mom and dad, or living in a godly way in your home, then by all means I'd say somebody like that keep around. But if the patterns that they reinforce or seem to fixate on are not godly things, if your relationship as a whole with that person leans more towards toeing the line, or not necessarily being a godly person, and it almost seems like they're okay with that, then I think that's things to check, because there were people in my life, growing up, that I called them friends, and we had a great time together as far as just hanging out, not necessarily like going and get in trouble, but if you started bringing up anything kind of towards God or in a positive way, they would just kind of tune out from that, But there's people that I have in my life now that, I look at it like this, if me and you get in a conversation about something God's doing in either one of our lives, like either one of us are going to be excited about that, or we're going to be thankful that God's doing that in your life. We're not going to change the subject of, oh, that's great, hey, what about this, And I think if you start to get around people that, and again, not that we got to talk in scripture and, just whatever may be all the time, but if you can't have those conversations and, they're always changing the subject or pointing towards something, I think that's a start of it, of how you look at those things. And another thing I would say is it something that, I think a difference we look at is influence versus pressure. And like this, the people I look back at in my life that weren't right for me, there was not influence there. It was pressure to do those things. It was saying, okay, let's do this. Yeah. But there's people in my life that, I strive to influence, right? To point them to God. I can't make them do it. All I can do is live my life and hope that is an influence on them. And I think we got to be careful of that. Are we pressured into things? Is it this made to feel like we're weird if we don't do that stuff, or we're the outcast, or whatever it may be, rather than somebody trying to influence you in the right ways and just be that person alongside of you to encourage you and help you along the way.
Yeah, you said something right there, and I was almost wanting to stop you. This is kind of a big deal to me, and I really hope the listeners understand what I'm saying by this. Off topic, on topic. don't lower your standards thinking that's what you have to do to reach people for the Lord.
Yes.
Don't take yourself to somebody else's level to then try to drag them back to where you were. What you'll find is a lot of times is the friend that you think is going to be sticking right there, if I can just get them up just a little bit.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, arguably 10 times out of 10, they're going to keep you where they were at.
Oh, yeah.
And if not keep you where they're at, they're going to drag you just a little bit lower. Be the friend that you want to have.
Yeah.
Don't, if you only have friends, and I heard somebody say this the other day, and I kind of chuckled whenever I heard it. If you ever think or say, man, all of my friends are so negative.
Yeah.
Take a self-evaluation and say, is it because of me?
Yeah.
Am I rubbing off on them? I know this kind of episode is talking about the influence other people have on you, but at the same time, what kind of influence are you having on other people?
Oh, yeah.
Of saying, man, this person can't have a conversation with me other than just to gossip and tell me about how bad so-and-so is. Well, are you giving them that avenue because every once in a while, maybe not as often, but every once in a while, you're going to them first instead of God. You're going to them first and saying, man, this person's treating me this way, or did you see what they were wearing today?
Yeah.
And you really need to be the friend that you want to have, because when you are becoming that friend that you want to have, it becomes a magnet.
Yeah.
You start getting those friends that you were wanting to have. So many times we see teenagers that, and even whenever I was a teenager, I remember having a conversation with my mom one night of saying, man, I just feel like I'm on this island. I feel like I'm trying to do the right thing. And in that moment, it was a big deal to me. Looking back on it now, I'm like, you were an idiot. Because there was that season of my life that I really, truly think I felt that way. I felt like I was on an island.
Yeah.
Because the Lord was teaching me some things that only me and Him could really deal with one-on-one. If I had other influences in my life at that time, I don't think I would have been able to really rely on Him as heavy as I needed to.
Yeah. And
that grew my faith. We pray all the time, Lord, give us strength and help our faith and help us with our daily life. And then He gives us some hard struggles to make us stronger, and we're like, the world's falling apart. I really do think that time in my life was really the Lord kind of weeding some things out of saying, it's at the end of the day, it's me and you.
Yeah.
And you don't take those times for granted. Don't take the time where you do feel alone for granted. But at the same time, don't lower your standard of saying, man, I can't find any good friends that, man, they check all the boxes. They're this, and this, but they just don't go to church as often as I do. Don't lower that standard to try to win them as a friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't say, well, they do this, they go to church, but man, they got a bad disobedient to parents. I mean, they talk about their parents like crazy. That's not going to help you any.
No.
And you have to realize that none of us are perfect. None of us are going to act perfect all the time. But we should all be taking self-evaluations, not only at our friend group, but on ourselves, of saying, am I being the friend that I need to be? And you kind of talked about this in the beginning. If someone studied 5 of your closest friends, you can normally tell how you are based off of those friends.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a big deal. It talks a lot about who you hang around, but it also at the same time talks about who you're influencing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that teenagers have this. And we did the same thing of feeling like you just don't have any friends. And it's looking back on it now, it's like, man, I had a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
It was just almost like I just had this ungrateful heart of some people that were my friends, that were good influences, but man, they weren't having as much fun, or they weren't getting in as much trouble as I wanted to. And the reality was, it was on me.
Yeah.
That they weren't hanging around me, maybe because I was a bad influence.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that when we're talking about friends, I know this is kind of later on in the thing, but not everybody has to be your friend.
No.
Not you do not. Jesus did not call you. He called you to first love God, then to love your neighbor as yourself. But he never called any of us to go eat with everybody, or go over to everybody's houses, or be buddies and be in a group chat with everybody. Learn to say no.
Yeah.
Even at a young age, learn to say no when it comes to things that is going to hinder your Christian walk.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the thing we got to realize: friendships are still a choice at the end of the day. You know, you don't have, like,
we forget that sometimes.
Yes, like
we forget that
we don't have to let everybody in.
Yeah.
Or, you know, again, we kind of don't use this word as much anymore, but somebody can be an acquaintance. You know, they don't have to be the friend or even the best friend,
Yeah.
you know, or anything like that. Like, friendships are a choice.
Yes.
And the reason I say that, and kind of what we've been alluding to with a lot of this, is if they're not, you know, one, if I'm not influencing them in the right way, they may choose to not be around me, you know, kind of like what you were just saying. But if I'm striving to live for God, and my goal is to go after Him and really live for Him, and they're not pointing me or pulling me closer to Him, you know, or helping me be more godly in my life, I can choose, you know, whether or not that is an influence in my life, or if that's there in my life. Again, they don't have to be perfect. I mean, none of us will be or is perfect, but they need to be on the same page as we are as far as striving to go after God. You know, it amazes me the people, and I don't even say teens with this. I'm talking about people in general, you know. But it amazes me the people that they're struggling to get close to God, but they don't want to let go of some of the friendships that they have, or they don't want to let go of some of the influences that they have in their life, and then they wonder why it's this chore to stay close to God. Yeah. And it's like, well, look, who is it that is encouraging you this week in a godly way? Who is it that is holding you? We've talked about this in other episodes. Who is it that's holding you accountable to really live for God? And so, you know, you can't, you know, we hear a lot of preachers say this, you can't have worldly influence in one hand and God in the other hand and expect to have this right kind of balance in your life or get closer to Him, you know? So again, make it a choice, you know? You don't have to, it's almost like nowadays we treat our friends like the friend section of our social media, you know, like, you don't have to have everybody as a friend on social media. You don't have to have everybody as a friend in real life. Like, you can choose quality over quantity. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. Like, I'd rather have a small handful of quality, godly friends than quantity, this massive group of friends, all right, influences, whatever, and I'm struggling to stay close to God, and I'm struggling to live for Him. And so again, you know, we don't have to have it all, but let's make a choice to have quality relationships, you know? Yeah. And if you're looking at that, you know, and I'll throw this back to you, like, what would you tell them if we're looking at quality relationships, if we're looking at quality influences and friendships in our life? You know, what do you see that being? What would you tell them? Say, hey, look, you know, these are the type of people that are going to help you in this life.
Yeah. Number one, almost without fail, if you can ask this person, and usually any of the people that come to us asking us, hey, what do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? They normally know what the first question is going to be, and nobody ever likes the first question.
Oh, no.
Which is this person drawing you closer to the Lord?
Yeah.
We know that within the first 5 minutes of meeting somebody.
Most times if they're coming to us, they're like hoping we justify it. That's the thing.
They're not wanting that question, but the reality is, if they're not helping you, then they're hurting you.
Yeah.
And it is okay to show them Jesus by just simply the way that you live. You do not have to have them, in your favorites list on your phone for them to see Jesus in your life.
Yeah.
It can be in your daily walk of how they see you live your life, how they see you react to situations. And I know y'all know what I'm talking about whenever I say people watch from a distance a lot of times.
Yeah.
And, there's people, even here at church, that I know them from a distance.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to be friends with them, not that they're not good people, but, maybe maybe there'll be a season for that friendship. But everybody doesn't have to be your friend. So are they leading you closer to the Lord? Are they telling you the truth? A good friend would say, I can't be friends with you because you are going to pull me away from the Lord.
Yeah.
If somebody says that to you, you need to take a hard mental check of saying, that person needs to be my friend, and I'm going to work on myself to be that person's friend. If they're going to tell you the hard thing, which is usually just the truth.
Well, if I can jump in there for a second,
Yeah.
and then I'll give it back to you on that. But I very much so experienced that even as late as college. I mean, in Bible college, again, studying to be a preacher, all this stuff, striving to be in the ministry, all those things, was in a wrong relationship at the time as far as boyfriend-girlfriend relationship that I should not have been in. Very much like what we're talking about, pulling me away from God rather than pointing me to God was not a good influence on my life, and really a pivotal point in my life of what would the rest of my life look like if I went a wrong way or went the right way, and was just making some wrong choices. But at the time, I was in a singing group, in a gospel group. We were traveling around singing. Me, my best friend, and another person that we had met at the church. Her name was Melissa, and because of choices that I was making, my friend Ben pulled me to the side one day, called me over to his house, and he said, "Look, man," he said, "I love you." He said, "But because of the choices you're making right now in this season of your life, I cannot share a stage with you and sing with you because of how you're being influenced." And he said, "You're not in the right place if you can make these choices and then want to brag and sing about God on Sunday." And what I thought everything was fine, all this stuff, here I am, my best friend, and what it was is I realized at that time, a lot of people, we say we want best friends, but we want yes men. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Yeah. We don't want a best friend. We want a yes person. We want validation. And I sat down for, we didn't sing together for a couple months. And another guy stepped in the group, took my place for a while. I had to get a check on some things, go back, apologize to him, to the whole group, and God restored that. But what I get at is if I can add to what you're saying, that right there, somebody that will tell you the truth and not be a yes man, everybody needs somebody like that. And if you have somebody like that, you hold on to them because there's somebody that'll help you.
Yeah. It is important, and I don't want to negate your story. A good friend, somebody that is a good potential to be a friend, something you should look at is, do they go to church? But don't make that the only reason why they're a good friend.
Yes.
I have seen, and I know you have seen the same, of not good friends, not good friendships that are in the ministry, that are at church every Sunday, at church every Wednesday, that are in youth group, of saying, this person's a terrible influence, and I'm not going to be the one to change them, but the Lord was the one. Even in your situation, the Lord was the one that changed that.
Yeah.
And, you need to find people that are going to draw you closer to the Lord. You need to find people that are going to tell you the truth. Something that is huge in figuring out who a real friend is. Are they going to celebrate? And it could be spiritual wins. It doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual wins, but are they going to celebrate you, or are they going to compete you in everything?
Yeah.
Is it always going to be a competition of saying who has the nicer thing? Whose mom and dad can fork out more money for this and this? And those are unhealthy friendships. Those are people that you will always allow pride to get in there and do one of the things that the Lord hates, just because you think that they're a friend that you have to compete with instead of help and celebrate that.
Yeah.
So are they helping you make the right choices? Are they giving you excuses? I think I even posted on my Facebook not too long ago something that I'm seeing a lot come up here in probably recent months, and this could be different for everywhere, but in recent months, and even looking back on it now, this is not anything new, but beware of friends that let you hold on to bitterness. Be kind of going back to the friends that we need to look out for. Be somebody who's, when they're drawing you closer to the Lord, they're not also allowing you to, they're not taking your burden and helping you with it and then continuously weighing you down with it every day. Are those friends that you have, are they helping you get better, or are they helping you stay bitter?
Yeah.
And it's important that we don't have those type of friends around. Again, going back to it, it seems like this whole episode is just going to be one big circle of us kind of making a point and going right back to start A. But are they drawing you closer to the Lord?
Yeah. Because,
that is the most important friendship that you're going to have, is the friendship that you have between you and the Lord.
Yeah.
And anything that's going to help you grow is something that's good. Anything that's going to help, you're always going to be one of the two. You're never going to have a friend, whether they should be a friend or they shouldn't be a friend. You're never going to have a friend that is middle of the fence. They're always going to be helping you grow, or they're always going to be hurting your relationship. So being mindful of those things when you're checking your friends out, of saying, maybe I need to take a step back from this person. Maybe I need to say no and say, I don't need to do this. Again, not lowering your standard just because, they've got an Xbox. I don't know. Whatever your reason might be. Not lowering your standard, but also getting a relationship to where when you start to stray away, you've got friends that say, hey, this isn't right. This is what you're doing is wrong. And, I still want to be your friend. I remember you said his name, Ben. I remember you talking about Ben, and there's never been a time where you haven't ever said Ben without saying best friend.
Yeah.
Because that relationship, even in your stories, it grew stronger because of that.
Absolutely.
Not because he didn't like you, but because he loved you enough to tell you the truth. That relationship between you and the Lord grew. Absolutely. And the relationship between you and him grew. So that's important, and I think it's important too to see, I'll let you kind of get into some of the red flags that we would look out for. Yeah.
Well, and I'll add to what you just said and kind of get into it, but I would dare to say, if it wasn't for, and I don't even want to say a friend like him, I mean really him being my best friend, that, especially taking that stance in that moment. And really that was a pivotal point in my ministry of that started me down the road of eventually ending that relationship and everything, which, I mean, if that hadn't ended, I wouldn't have, I mean, literally the relationship and the marriage and the family and everything that I have today. And, you know, if it wasn't for somebody like that being honest with me, man, I don't know where my life would be at this moment. And you could say, oh, well, I would have got out of it, but we don't know that. Sure. I mean, the farther you go down that road and you feel like I'm stuck here, eventually you're going to accept that. Yeah. And you're going to just be there. And so, you know, those people, as hard as that is to swallow, you need those people. You need those people that'll be honest. And again, going back to what we're talking about, you know, it kind of cycles back to just that evaluation if you're wanting to find or make sure that there's not red flags in the friendships that you have. You know, you've got to be willing to address those things or evaluate those things. Because I'll say it like this, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like driving your car. You know, you have a check engine light come on or something like that. Just because you don't go scan it and get the code and figure out what's going on doesn't mean there's not problems there. Yeah. But you got to be willing to address the issue and see what's there with it, you know? Yeah. And so as you look at your life, if you start to feel things get off in a relationship, or you start to think, this just isn't sending me down the right road or getting me closer to God, start to be intentional in asking yourself, is it a healthy relationship? Is it a godly influence in my life? You know, if there's drama all the time, or you feel like you're constantly, you know, having to defuse a bomb or, you know, things like that, that may not be a healthy relationship. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, like, I don't want to feel like I'm on pins and needles all the time if I'm dealing with somebody or in a, you know, in a friendship with somebody or anything like that. You know, here's another big one. When you talk to somebody, is it a conversation or is it just gossip all the time? Mm-hmm. You know, if it's negative, if it's gossip, if it's, did you see what so-and-so did and this, and you can't just have a genuine conversation with somebody, probably not a healthy relationship. Yeah. You know, if it's just always, you know, bringing to light what somebody else did, or, you know, I mean,
if you get a chuckle and then somebody tries to show you their phone screen, this probably is kind of somebody. I've gotten to where I'm like, I don't even want to see it. Like, I don't even care. Yeah. Like it's not bothering me. It's not bothering them. It's just bothering you. Then you got to take a chill pill.
Oh yeah, and it's even worse with social media nowadays, because we promote everything. I mean, we put our whole life out there if we're not careful. And so it's just people like, hey, check out this or look at this, you know? Yeah. But I mean, again, all those things is stepping back and look. And it's not saying that they start that way, but it's just, again, kind of like what I was saying with the car with the check engine light. If you start to feel like things are a little off, okay, then be willing to address the issue. Be willing to see what's wrong.
And if you don't feel like you can be honest with that person, be honest with them. Yeah. Because if they take away from that they don't want to be friends anymore, that might be a blessing. But if they take away that, you know, that person's probably right, and I did kind of overreact, and I shouldn't have maybe said it the way I said it, you're only helping that person. I do not recommend go through and nitpick everything in everybody's life. No. But still treating people the way that you would want to be treated. Yeah. Of saying, yeah, I kind of stepped out of line right there. And iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. And you are going to help build somebody back, even if it's just for a season of life, of saying, hey, you stepped out of line, and if they don't think you can be friends anymore, then that's probably a blessing. Yep. But that's also a two-way street too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and everything we're talking about is a two-way street. I mean, it's just relationships in general. It's how am I influencing and how am I being influenced? And, we was talking about one day in Bible class how to handle objections and criticisms when they come up in life. And I mean, part of life is constructive criticism. Part of life is, like what you're saying, going to somebody like, hey, I don't know if this was right, and
Sure.
the prayer is that they receive it in the right way,
Yeah.
and especially if they call themselves a Christian, that they grow in the Lord with it. And again, it falls back to accountability, that they get closer to God through it. But you may find out that their motives are different than yours, and maybe God allows some distance to be made there for your own benefit. And you love them, you pray for them, but it's okay to grow apart from somebody if it means you're growing closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that really is the reality of it. Like, I don't have to save a friendship at the expense of my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we have a hard time sometimes. People are like, well, if I'm not close to them anymore, then, I don't want to hurt their feelings and things like that. But, okay, but what about you? Where are you at? Are you staying close to God by enduring this rather than being a part of it? Or, is some distance going to help you get back to where God desires you to be in your life? And that's okay. I mean, I had to let people go some, and I had to let some distance happen. I remember when I got called to preach and things like that I hate to say it, they have yet to call me since the day I told them this, but that's okay, because I'd rather be in the right place with God. And here's the thing too, if I'm in the right place with God, then the other friendships will fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm where I need to be with Him, I don't have to wonder if the right people's going to be in my life, because God will put them there.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of where wrapping up this episode. Are you being the good influence that you need to be?
Yeah.
And something that's kind of always encouraged me, with even when feeling lonely, like you don't have any friends, the best person to get friends from is the Lord.
Yeah.
And He, anything you take to the Lord, any burden that you have, any burden that you think you have that causes you to pray is a blessing. And take those things to the Lord, of saying, Lord, I would love a friend in this situation. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. She may mind, but I don't mind. It encouraged me hearing her say it. But Ashlyn, for a long time, which is my wife, she kind of struggled with that of kind of that youth group age, getting out of youth group, and she hadn't been out of, really neither of us had been out of youth group very long when we got married, and she didn't really necessarily feel like she had good friends. And I consistently told her, just be the friend that you want to have, and the Lord will honor that, and pray for that person. And just a few weeks ago, she said something about which I don't even know how they say it. It's some weird way they say it. Maybe she was texting somebody. I was like, who are you texting? She said, Hedda. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? She's like, we're just talking about, we're just talking about tough stuff. And it was something like bread or something like that. But she literally went through and was like, I was like, oh yeah. So we kind of started talking about, our wives' relationships.
Yeah.
And it really went down to the things that she was talking about. I was like, Ashton, do you remember a year ago, me and you having this conversation of you saying, man, I wish I had somebody in my life that was this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
And the Lord answered that prayer where she could really kind of sit back and reflect of saying, I need to be grateful for this relationship because I wasn't grateful for other ones, and maybe those fell away, but I have somebody now that I can text. And, it's important to be the friend that you want. Consistency is better than perfection.
Yeah.
Be a consistent friend. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. Be consistent. Be a leader, and don't always be the loudest one in the conversation.
Yeah.
But choose your good friends. Because if you don't make those choices, they'll make those choices for you.
Absolutely. So. One thing to kind of challenge everybody with, and we've, kind of come full circle several times through the episode, which again, it goes back to God, and are we pointing people to Him, and are we being pointed to Him by other people? But if you're listening to this, or you're watching this, and you're saying, this is tough, and how do I get started with this? How do I make sure that I've got the right friends in my life? And again, it's okay for that circle to be small. It's okay for it to not be quantity over quality. But if I could challenge you, I would say start by evaluating things. Be honest with the friendships that you have. Be honest with the relationships that are in your life. Because if you can't get honest with yourself, who are you going to be honest with?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can look at those things, and if there's questions like, well, do they influence me like I need to? Are they pointing me to God? Then I'm not saying kick them to the curb immediately, but pray about them.
Yeah.
Pray about those friendships. Here's the big thing, and I promise we're wrapping up. But don't just think that stuff just happens by chance.
Yeah.
If we got to be intentional in other parts of our Christian walk, we need to be intentional with the friendships that we have.
Sure.
And so evaluate those things. And so, me, I've talked about this. I love practical. To give you just a little bit to bite off and chew this week, identify one relationship that you need to strengthen. Take that one relationship that you say, hey, this is a good relationship that I have. Let me strengthen this, because if nothing else, let me have that one.
Maybe you're the weaker link in that relationship.
And that's true too. Maybe
be that needs to be the one that you strengthen. Exactly.
I mean, again, this isn't you look at everybody else and not yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Strengthen it to where you say, Lord, I don't want to lose out on this, because it is good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's me that needs to do the work or whatever it may be, but however God shows you, strengthen that relationship. Here's another side of it. Identify a boundary you need to set. If there's people that maybe they don't need to be completely out of your life, but there needs to be a little distance there, you can put boundaries in and still care for people.
Boundaries that aren't causing you to not sin.
Yes.
If it is a flagrant sin, get those people out immediately.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But
absolutely.
if it is a boundary that you say, maybe I need to take a step back from this person.
Yeah.
I think of that whenever you say, see if we almost probably all of us have that one friend where it's like, yeah, I probably need to reel it back just a little bit.
Yeah. If I don't answer all the text, or there's a little distance there, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt us. And then again, just choose one way that you can positively influence somebody this week. Again, we're pointing people to God, and that is our goal. I tell my Bible class, our youth, this all the time. My life is meant to glorify God, and so how can I positively influence somebody this week, whether it is a friendship that I've already got, or whether it's somebody I don't know, and God allows me to have an opportunity to influence them. How can I do that this week? And you know what? Again, these are simple things. One thing here, one thing there, to make sure that we are the right influence and that we have the right influences in our life. That again, let's go back to the beginning of this whole episode, that points us and points other people closer to God.
Absolutely.
So, well, guys, we appreciate it. Thank y'all for listening today. We do hope you're making good choices. Hope you got good friends and influences in your life. And I promise you'll see the difference in your walk with the Lord when you have those right people in place. So, guys, appreciate you listening. Looking forward to our next episode. Again, if you hear the podcast, watch it, share it, like it. Let us know how everything's going. And we're praying for you. We love you.
Appreciate y'all.